¿Qué?
En otros países está peor que aquí el virus.
¿Cómo dónde?
En Europa, en Francia.
De veras.
Y en un montón de casos, pero están poniendo ya de una vez las rules que van a hacer. Y aquí que sí estamos sin rules.
No, no es que están peor, nosotros estamos peor y no hay rules.
Así por las que no hay rules. Ahí sí ya van a poner toque de queda, van a poner no sé qué. No puedes ir a visitar a tus parientes, solo pueden haber tantos en una
Good.
Vaya, pero así ha habido un brote.
Ajá.
Aquí se me hace que no están diciendo la verdad del brote que hay.
We're so dumb. What is this? Oh. Hello. Oh. Hello. Hello. Oh no. Wait, is my headphones are not on. That's fine. No. Yes. Can you hear me? Oh, I think I can hear you. Hi.
Okay. Hi. Let me grab
Hi.
headphones so weird echo. Hold on.
Oh, perfect.
All right. How are you?
Good. How are you? Sorry, I was so frazzled, and then I was like, "Oh my god, I never sent out this link."
That's okay.
Are you able to open up the other link too? The Zencaster link? I just like to back up for the sound because that one splits the audios.
I only see a Zoom link.
Oh, okay. I emailed it to you. I just put it in the chat right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Stop it. My dog, the minute I get on Zoom.
Oh my god,
Starts
that's
with me.
is. He'll just like come by and I'm just like, okay, cool. You don't want attention like any other time ever. But
Exactly.
like then it's just like, wait, you're not paying attention to me? Like, please do that now. That's so annoying. What? I'm so excited. We're finally chatting.
I know.
It's so funny because I talk exactly how I write and then I like forget that people don't know how I talk sometimes. And I'm like, I just come off as crazy, don't I? Like
It's good crazy. I'm into it.
Especially, I know, like this morning I was just like laying in bed and I was like, oh, I need to do things now. Like, okay, cool. Do you hear an echo though? So
I do. I was just gonna tell you. I hear an echo on your end. Is that like?
Yeah, let me just screen share how to get rid of that. So I don't know if you see this, but
Yep.
So you can actually just hit if you click up here, it's gonna say mute site. Yours should say mute, and it should mute it, so that way you don't hear it.
Hold on. One more time. Where was that again? Just in the top.
My God. Hold on. Someone. I guess my headphones are connected to my phone. 1 second. Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Were you able to mute it now?
Yes.
Like it sounds a lot better?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that way this is just like really backup and it just makes editing a lot easier. But I have it right now live streaming to YouTube, but it's on a private live stream just so that way it's like already there. And then I'll just go through and like cut out the beginning and end. But yeah, I'm super excited. So I have to like actually publish these. I have like literally 6 and I'm like, I don't want to do that editing. But I was like, okay, like it's evergreen content. It's good. It'll just get out there eventually when I have time. but I was just like, okay, I just need to do it though. But yeah, so basically what I'm trying to do, this is more like the Builds with Joy kind of series, which is, I don't know if you listen to like, what is it? How I Built This. I have. Love podcasts. Yeah. So I kind of want to try to aim it like that, but obviously like more people who are focused primarily like on anything digital, like creatives and more like social impact, right? So definitely like getting to know who you are, what you're building, why, and like kind of a little bit of like how. So it's also like a lead magnet for you, right? So basically, yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to do. And it's just like fun. But it's so funny because like Janice, like I was talking to her and I was like, how do you interview all these people? Like I literally like will only talk to people that I like somehow connect with. I'm like, okay, if I get to know you a little bit, she like talks to everyone. And I'm just like, I don't know how you have that patience because I'm pretty introverted. Like I love one-on-one convos and I'm like, I cannot talk to someone for more than 10 minutes if I don't like get to know them a little bit. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like I even have like one person that like someone referred and then I just had to reschedule and they went crazy on me. They literally were just like, well, you know, we had these scheduled in advance because I sent out a calendar and I was like, Thursday, so we're gonna book this. See my cat. And they were just like, well, we had this in advance. And I'm like, okay, you're being rude. Like, why would I want to talk to you for like 30 minutes? You know, like I'm just like, what?
I know people on the internet. I know the internet has like collectively lost its mind.
Honestly, I'm just like, I need everyone to just like go back to doing whatever they were doing. I was like, I miss the internet when it was just like us internet people that like worked on the internet. I was like, I need you all to go away. Like, please leave.
Yes, like remember when signing on to Zoom was like instant and happened in like 2 seconds. Now it's like you have to do it like 15 minutes before the start time.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Like my brother's going back to school like right now, like this week, hopefully. Because his Teams is just like a hot mess and it keeps stalling. And he's just like, I can't do this anymore. And they have like the hybrid option. But yeah, I'm just like, yeah, but for real, he was like, I'm so sick of Zoom. I'm so sick. He was like, his Teams don't work. Microsoft was down like for everyone for like I think sometime last week. So like his homework wasn't going through. Yeah, and then like people at companies are just like, what the hell? Like, but
it's definitely it's a funny time because like COVID was like an accelerant for people to get online and doing their digital. So it's been interesting because things that even when I was putting together our deck for the side hustle summit, I'm like, all right, not too much industry talk, not too much e-commerce references, not too many financial references because, you know, just you want to know your audience and you want people to not feel like, okay, she's speaking like Chinese to me. I don't know what this means.
I know. The first one we had to do, I had to like break it down even more. Like the first couple of times, because I'm so used to talking to like tech folk or like anyone that's in advertising and stuff like that, that I was just like, and people were like, what? And I was just like, right. Like, I think I told people, like, I was like, Calendly. Like, I actually facilitated a networking event for Fast Company, and I was like, Calendly, and people were like, ooh, and I'm like, y'all are like,
oh yeah, I saw in the group. You were like, it's just a scheduling app.
I know, because I did like automating your business, right? And even like that, I was just trying to think. I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna start with like, this is how you build a process, and then you think automation and think of these tools, right? Like, because I was even like, let me not go like 5.0 level, like 501 level, because even like these are industry folk, and they were just like, wow, and I'm like, what? Like. But then I think about it and I was like, right, that's why people used to hire us, because we had like network clients that were just like, oh my God, this like beautiful spreadsheet. And I was like, really? Like, you know, like Airtable. They were like, oh.
I think we shoot ourselves in the foot too, right? Like sometimes when you're pricing yourself and you're putting out, you know, packages for clients, and look, you want to be in integrity, but like we have to take care of ourselves too. And I think we should take care of ourselves abundantly. And that does not mean that I need to rip people off, but like certainly it doesn't matter that like anyone could do anything, right? Anyone could build a Shopify store. Anyone could learn how to code, whatever. But like if you don't want to and you want to hire someone for it, you're taking so much off of your own plate. And it's, you know, there's a lot of steps involved, but we shoot ourselves in the foot because we get so used to it. We're like, oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. But like, then when you're switching it over to like be managing projects, you're like, well, it is, but it is a lot of steps, and I am saving them, you know, our clients a significant amount of time and money and hassle. And it's also future, like you're looking so far into the future with the work that you're doing. So I actually, as part of like my mindset, I'm like, my being a know-it-all is getting in my way, because I am like, oh, it's so, I can't charge that for that. Oh, I would never charge that, you know, and I'm like, no, my work is like valuable and worthy of compensation.
Yeah, no,
we kind of downplay. Well, I do sometimes.
No, I totally get that. Because I guess we could save it for the podcast, but even that, no, I totally get that, because I feel like even I will be like, okay, well, this is so easy, you know, or not, and I want to like charge for like the complicated stuff, but then people are like, can you just like fix this thing on my site? And I'm like, really, you know, like,
yep, that turns into, oh my God, please, like, and if you want, we can like whenever you want to record, but like the boundaries around like, oh, I'm just making a button like a different color. No, it's not just, it's like, unless they want to pull color codes and they want to figure it out and not throw off the inconsistency.
No, but it's crazy. Like I've been making, especially I think because a lot of people don't like get just what ops is in general. I've literally like, people basically are just like anything somewhat techie. They're just like, can I hire you? And I'm like, sure. Because I'm like,
they're like, my internet doesn't seem to be working. I'm like, I'm not an IT person.
But like, and that's the other thing, because I do ops, that I'm like, I know how to do a little bit of everything, right? So I'm just like, yeah, I'll build you a whole system. But then like, people don't get why they need that. And if they do, it's like a big company and they're annoying and I don't want to deal with them. So it's like funny, because I've been doing like random just like content strategy or like WordPress type of stuff where it's just like super easy for me. But like, yeah, then you realize I'm like, okay, but this does take time. Like, you know, I'm just like, okay, it took me 3 hours to change someone's like nav bar the other day, because it was just like, it was their square, like it was a square, right? Which I freaking hate. So I had to like go into the freaking code and was just like, oh, like I have to find this. And I was like, because their template didn't have it. So it was like so annoying. But yeah. And I was like, okay, this is easy, but like it did take like 4 hours. But yeah, then I was just like, I don't feel bad now. Like, yeah, I was just like, okay, that's fine. I was like, they were never gonna do this. So like, charging, you know, like you think right now, what did I think I charged? I was just like, oh yeah, like 80 just flat for like anything techie. And they were like, all right, cool. And then I'm like, it's not that bad. But like the strategy is so much harder for people to like get, right? I'm just like, here's, because I could tell you the whole strategy in like an hour. And then I'm like, but that was worth like $1,000, right? Like, but yeah, but they just, that's why like even the small execution is like the stuff that is making me money. So I'm just like a bum half the day, which is great, but like
No, it's so true because scope creep and things. Human beings, we're just terrible at like depth perception of time and money. Like we're just kind of like, oh, I think especially with women, because we have all these conversations around negotiating and being like, oh, like I want to kick someone's ass and not stir the pot, but stir the pot. And it's like men, it's just a different process for them. And yeah, I think that what I'm trying to get at, it's going to take longer than we think. And we should always probably be like, look, it's probably going to be like this plus 30%, whatever that rate is. Cause I'm like, I don't know if I have to subcontract someone. I had a site over the summer that I built. It's a pretty big company and they have a wholesale option. And there was a new app that came out, as like an add-on for them to automate some of their process, but they had to customize the app. I mean, the scope creep was like 3 months over, like past the due date. And then there's also training, which I'm like, trust me when I say you don't want to roll out a new feature to like your client list of 10,000 people without like testing the durability of like how this is all going to work out. And they were like, well, we're just going to shoot an email. I'm like, basically their site is like wholesale pricing, so it's locked up and you have to go through this process of getting verified. And I was like, yeah, I think that I charged a fair amount, but I'm like, I definitely probably should have insisted upon the training. Like, it's not that it's something that's optional.
Right. I feel like that's the other thing when you're like kind of working with people, you realize you're like, you also need this, this, and that.
Rolling
and like,
things out. Yeah. People, when I was in corporate, I worked for a travel company and we would have to roll stuff out. I mean, there was like a team of like 1,000 people that would like be doing rollout processes and, kind of sending everything off so that it works. I would tell people like it takes 10,000 people to buy something on Amazon. It takes 10,000 people to book a hotel room, like every little thing for it to go smoothly. So yeah, I think you only get it when you're on the back end, and customers will never know what the back end of a website
I know, like literally, even like, I did ad ops, right? So everything was like, and people were just like, oh, this ad. And I'm like, it literally, like, I was managing a team of like 15 people in 3 different countries. And like, yeah, it's just nuts because I'm like, you don't realize everything that goes behind. Or people are just like, oh my God, I was just talking about this. And I'm like, yeah, there's like a whole bunch of me's that are just like putting all the campaigns together and like setting all the buttons and everything. But it makes me nuts. Like I could go on about it forever. But yeah, so what I'm thinking is definitely just like introducing yourself, like where you are, a little bit about yourself. And then kind of like how you got into e-commerce, especially if you want to like focus on that, why, and kind of, like how people can kind of start working, especially like you mentioned, like how you went from corporate to freelance. Because the goal is really that people listen and they're just like, wait, I could do this. And also like people who maybe have a company that are listening, like founders are like, wait, I need to hire her, right? Like, so it's a little bit of win-win, right? But yeah, I'm trying to keep them within 30 minutes, just because we all have really bad attention span. So I'm like, okay, if it's 30 minutes, people will listen for the full 30 minutes. But I'm going to go ahead then and hit the start recording on the Zencaster, and then I'm going to clap so I can sync up everything. But yeah, give me 2 seconds. Do you have water? Do you need water or anything?
I'm good. I think I'm good. I'm like, oh, am I thirsty? Let me think about it. I'm good.
Okay, no, that's fine. And in general, I don't know if you've done like a lot of podcasts. In general, it's better to speak slower. And even if you say like and stuff like that, just slower, because I can speed anything up and edit things out. So yeah, like don't feel like you need to rush. And I know it's like really hard because everyone that I talk to, like we end up just chatting just normal. So that it's just like, oh crap. But then when I'm editing, I'm like,
No, I'll pay attention to my.
It's it's a lot of the time me too. Like especially what is it that I say? Like every other phrase, and it's like so hard to edit out when I'm doing it. But cool. Let me just start here, and this one's already starting. Okay, hi. So today
Hi.
we are going to build with Kerry, and I'm really excited. We are going to be chatting together and presenting at the Side Hustle Summit too. So I'm really excited that Janice brought us together and get to know more about you, and especially because you're also in digital, and I get really excited when I meet people that are in the digital space, but I want other people to get to know you a little bit more. So if you could introduce yourself, who are you?
Hi, thank you for that introduction. So my name is Kerry, and I am, I guess you could say I'm a slashy. I am an e-commerce consultant and designer and a personal financial strategist for millennial women. So I do a little bit of both. Those are the two ways that I spend my time and make my money. And yeah, I started in e-commerce, oh my God, 10 years ago. So I worked for a tech company, an e-commerce travel company, Booking.com, and I was there for 5 years. And yeah, I left 5 years ago, actually in October of 2015.
Oh
And
wow, congrats, half a decade.
yes, I know, half a decade. So I left there and I didn't have like a super solid plan in place, but I knew that I had some skill level. I knew I was like a hell of a salesperson. And I was like, I just need to figure out like, what is this whole tech world and startups and all these things that are happening that I want to sort of be a part of. So I took some courses and was doing freelance work, and that's where I discovered Shopify. So it's actually a funny story. A new boutique had opened by my apartment, and the owner and I became really friendly. And she's like, I really want to get the store on Shopify. And she was like, but I want to do it with you because I don't have time for it. So long story short, we did that. And I realized that I loved working on platforms, remote working. I love the democratization of commerce, but I did not love everything else, like the sourcing clothing, photo shoots. I was just like, this is just not my jam. And she was like, you know what? Well, I don't love the internet stuff, so it was fine. We were like, you know what? We're gonna part ways. And I was like, you know what? I can like do this for more people at my own pace. And in that whole time, like I said, I didn't have like a super solid plan when I left corporate. I had been figuring out like, okay, what do like adults do when they leave their corporate jobs? I see all these people on Instagram and I'm worried about them. Do they have like 401ks? Like, what do we do? What do us
I'm
freelancers
worried
do?
about
I'm
that.
like, I'm worried about them. I'm worried about me. So in that time, I had really, discovered like the FIRE movement. And I had done financial coaching, but more on like an economic justice volunteer work basis when I was in college. So like consumer protection, things like that. So it was something that always interested me. And I was like, I also was kind of like a hot mess with my money, not super. I just like I said, I left this job and was like, how do you invest? How do you continue adulting when now I have all this freedom? Like when I moved out of my parents' house at 18. So long story short, in the past 2 years, I've really doubled down on Shopify and working one-on-one with women to get their financial shit together and potentially start businesses. Sometimes, that will be the path and sometimes it won't. So both are like all good. And I want to see like the whole world on Shopify. I think they're like a wonderful company. They have great leadership. They're Canadian. When you call their customer service, they're so nice. And it
And they
works.
have customer service, unlike
Yes.
most companies.
Yes, because my first foray into tech was like getting introduced to WordPress as a non-developer corporate person who kind of like was like, I'm not a techie person. So when I discovered Shopify, I was like, wow, this is rad. Like I don't need a million different things to like plug in. And I think I think WordPress has its place for the things where you need those plugins, but for like a small business owner or someone starting,
Yeah, for sure. Like I think WordPress is great if you're going to go the content marketing route and like,
absolutely.
for blogging and stuff like that. But I've done the plugins, I've done everything, and they're just so hard to manage if you don't have technical skills, right? Or patience to be like, let me click around forever. But then who would you say is the perfect person to be on Shopify?
Oh, that's a good question, because I could say like, well, everyone, because I just feel that we're getting to this point where like all of us that are, building audiences, we all have these like little mini broadcast networks, that compared to like, major media companies, and we all have something, whether it's a digital product, whether it's a physical aspect, like a t-shirt or whatever the thing is, that we could get out there. But if I were to say who, I would definitely say brick and mortar businesses that are coping with the pandemic. It is just, I don't think that it is an option anymore to not have some sort of online presence. And it doesn't need to be Shopify. There's also options that are like, more cost effective for people. You could even get a store up on Facebook if you wanted to. Shopify would always be my preference for everyone because of the way, once it's set up, it's a one and done. So I think brick and mortar and people who are service providers like you or me, Janice, Vanessa, any of us, who want to really create that like connection with their brand. Like I am going to, at some point in the next 6 months, put out like, remember those like word a day calendars? Like that they would have like back in the day. So this one's going to be like a financial action a day. So it's going to be set up exactly like a word a day calendar. And, I want to have like a money clip that like people could have in their wallet. That's something funny to keep them, cued into like their spending. So I love stuff like that. That's like utilitarian. Don't just like put shit on a shingle and like sell it because you're going to waste your customers' time at your own time. But if there's like an element to really connect to your brand that could like bring you that much closer to your community, I am like, go for it. And there's not like a better platform to do it on, arguably, like Shopify.
And would you say, is it just like e-commerce? Like, is it also like, is it only physical products that you can sell on Shopify?
So you know what? I actually have a person who DM'd me. She's a Reiki healer. And she is going to be doing like a subscription box that's quarterly, but really what she wants to be pushing is her course. So I did some research and there is a plugin. It's like they set it up very much like WordPress, that there are plugins to cover everything. I had no idea that you could do a course on there. For digital products, I think, to be totally honest, it might be a little bit expensive. To like you might be better off just like putting up like a simple Squarespace site or doing Shopify Lite that's like $10 or a WordPress or Etsy even. But yeah, you can do it on Shopify. If you wanted to, you could do like downloadables. You could sell your services on there, although it's so like the way that it's set up conversion wise is so like just get people to like buy this quickly. So I don't know how well it would work for like a service based, but
that's fair. I'm only really used to like digital products and, advertising campaigns. That's like my area of expertise. And just like, working with companies and consulting. But I think traditionally it's easier for people to understand selling and starting businesses when there's an actual product, right? So it's like a little bit easier because I think that's the cool part, that you could be like, wait, like I can start a business, right? Like selling something, right? Like an actual thing that's tangible. Whereas, before you had to think about, like I have to be this big company, right? Like the Gap or Forever 21, where I have to like build all this stuff. So what would you say to people that are like interested, especially now, especially side hustling, right? Like how would you even start, right?
So I would definitely say to get on Shopify's website, they have Shopify University that you could like learn if it's the platform for you. So I would say there's like a 95% chance that if you have a physical product that you want to sell, Shopify is the platform for you. So I'm going to keep it in. Let's say that everyone listening is trying to sell some sort of physical product. Get on there. And if you feel really overwhelmed and you have some money to be able to invest, look at their experts page, because that is where you would be able to find people like myself or developers, theme developers, anything, like people who work on functionality or like front end aesthetics that could either do a done for you or done with you kind of thing. So this is like definitely, if you're not like a tech person, Shopify could feel very overwhelming. if you are like a Gen Z younger millennial, you'll probably be able to like, and you have time on your hands, right? Like, cause there's 2 points in like entrepreneurship. Like in the beginning, you're like time rich and money poor. And then as you move along, you become more money rich and time poor. So I think that's like one of those nuances to figure out, like, where am I in that spectrum? How much time am I willing to invest to learn this? And then narrow down, you know, in the Shopify University, it's all free, like what you would want to outsource and what you think you could figure out on your own. There's a lot of tutorials. I let people, what I say, I'm like, you could rent me for a day, like a half a day rate. When they're starting out, because it is an investment. Like people are like, well, it's a DIY platform. Like I could do it myself, which we were just talking about. Like you could, like, surely you could. I could do my own taxes. When I'm not in the mood to cook dinner, I could force myself to cook it, but I'm much happier when I like order. I'm much happier when I outsource my taxes. I'm like, you know, it's all about your choice, because it's either costing you time or money either way. So I think that's a really great place to start. I don't know how much information there is on like Pinterest, because I know for Squarespace and WordPress, there's a ton of like a library on Pinterest. But also if you go into Facebook and were to look up like Shopify expert groups or Shopify designer, you could find Facebook groups that have pretty good support where, you know, you could ask your questions. They may do it for free, they might not, but it's just really just dip your toe in the water, take the free trial.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And what would you say then for someone that is looking to follow more in your footsteps, right? Where they're just like, I need to figure out how to adult and figure out like something, you know, that they can sell, right? Where it's like, okay, let me learn a skill that I can offer, right? And we were talking about this earlier where we were trying to figure out like even pricing or your time and like packaging and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So with Shopify, I'll speak to 2 ways that I've made money with it. So selling a product and selling my service to people. For myself, I had a background in e-commerce, so understood like really the basics of conversion, which if we want to like make that really simple, it's like, how can you eye something up and know that it's easy for someone to use? So that could be like a matter of opinion, or you could just like ask around, is this site easy to use and could you figure it out? Like what the main objective is for you, because you don't want to go in. I'm all about messy action, but if people are paying you to design them a site, you've got to know kind of what you're doing, and it's not rocket science, but you don't want to like slap something together and be like, all right, that was $5,000. You know, you've got to bring like, you know, some level of integrity and expertise. So as a designer, I'm getting like a little stream of consciousness. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
So yeah,
there's literally a fly flying around, and I'm just like, apparently this is
that the
common.
Mike Pence fly?
It is. I think it is. I see it. I'm just like, oh my God, which is really funny. Sidetrack. I think Rachel Maddow interviewed Kamala and like asked her, she was like, did you see the fly? And she was just like,
she's like,
imagine like the SNL skit. But sorry, going back.
No, that's okay. So I would say, you know, if you were looking to like learn how to build on Shopify, make a test site, build yourself up a little portfolio. So there are tons of businesses right now who need online stores, you know, so find a few clients. You know how it is when you have an idea, the first thing you need is, will someone pay me to do this? Build a test site, make it look good enough, get feedback from people that like, oh, I like, you do a basic usability test. Do you know what the main objective is with this site? Find clients who would want to pay you for it, sharpen your skill set. That is obviously a very simplified way of looking at it, but you know, you can make very good money as like, you know, a sole proprietor. So I think it's a worthy time investment. If you were looking to sell a product on a Shopify store, but you don't have like a ton of money to be buying like inventory, you could always try like drop shipping or print on demand. So with drop shipping, people always think like some sort of Amazon setup or like AliExpress. And I don't even think that is the only option. For me, I would find like an independent brand who's like small, and you'd want to like promote their products that you're really passionate about, and just tell them like, can I put your product on my site? Not going to buy any inventory. And if any of it sells, I will pay you directly for the product and keep the difference. so that you're making some money. You can test out and validate, like, hey, would people pay for this like t-shirt that says whatever, or this hat, or this handbag, or whatever the thing is. So that way you're not saying, you know what, I have to spend 10 grand on inventory first and get it up there, because you don't know that it's going to sell and you don't know when it's going to sell. And we are all dealing with perishable goods online because of our supply chains. Like the turnover, I'm like, look at all of the stuff that's sold online. It's like, it's terrible, but it's true. Like dresses are now like buying eggs, you know what I mean? I try my damnedest to like stay away from fast fashion because of those things, but it's the reality that if somebody wanted to sell dresses online, you'd have to buy a couple $1,000s worth of them. So why not support like a smaller brand that you could drop ship on their behalf, become a marketing channel for them, and you could learn how things work, and go that route of like, hey, I know how to do this. I built a thing and I know how to sell online, or I sold it online and I want to get more. Now I'm making money and I know that I could get people to like trust me to buy from me, and I want to put a product out there.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier than people think, right? Because you just start doing revenue shares, which essentially is just I'm going to take commission, right? Like you are a salesperson for them, which is, you're just essentially building a marketplace, right? Which is a lot, especially like Shopify has extensions where you could just add on a marketplace, right?
You could totally do that. You could add on to Amazon, you could add on to eBay. So I would highly recommend, if that like very quick explanation is unclear, read the Lean Startup and like apply those principles.
Oh my God, I love that one. Yes.
Yeah. Apply those principles, but make it focused on e-commerce. So like the bare minimum viable product that you would need to get up online. Also, sometimes people just do ghost products. Like something that I did actually, I used to sell designer vintage with my partner, and it's expensive. But I bought like a vintage Chanel bag from someone in the Netherlands for $800 online. I got it appraised from, I don't even remember who the appraisal house was, but they said that it would retail for $3,500. It was like a collector's piece. I just put it on Etsy and it sold within a day. But I'm like, what I could have done is, instead of buying it up front for the $800, I could have just took the picture of it, put it on Etsy, not really had the product. And if it sold, kind of cross my fingers that it didn't sell out on the other site, and I would sell it over to the person. Or you can work out a deal with, a vendor that has, because you could work out a deal with a vendor that would be like, I'll hold the inventory for you and you sell it, especially when it's expensive. So like I have a client who was a jeweler, and I was so confused when I bought my wedding ring. I'm like, are you rich? Like, how do you have like diamonds like on hand? She's like, oh no. She's like, you give me the specs that you want. And then we go into like she goes to the diamond district and gets the retail price. And then there's like a little markup. So I learned all about like the back end, because I'm like, yeah, also, isn't it risky to have like a store if you have literally $1 million worth of merchandise in the store? Like if somebody in the neighborhood knows that you're like selling diamonds out of there, where it's very different. If you go into the diamond district, there's a lot of security, like things are, it's differently set up, like the security there. So you can do a lot. You can do a ton of testing without having an actual physical product or buying inventory up front, which I'm all about, because you want to make sure that like you have healthy profit margins when you're selling these.
Yeah. And it's crazy because people are just like, wait, this sounds like a scam. And it's like, what do you think companies have been doing? Right? Like, this is literally what they do, right? It's just arbitrage, where it's just like, buy things for low, sell it up, mark it up. Like when you go to a store, like I think I saw someone on Twitter was just like, oh, this girl is just like rebuying eyelashes and putting her brand on it. And it's like, what do you think?
That's what everyone's
companies do. Yeah. I actually like had studied chemical engineering because I wanted to make hair products. And, like a lot of these companies, like they just buy the formulas,
the patents, and the formula.
Or even like, like CVS, all of those, like they buy from that one distributor and then they just put their brand on it, right? Like they just white label it essentially. And that's what tech companies do. That's what everyone does. Which is why, like, for me, the main focus, I'm like, build something, right? Where you're the owner, because that's at the end of the day, when you own things and it's proprietary, that's like what is of value. But at the same time, right, you're just like, start testing out by just like white
Test it out.
labeling it.
Yep, test it
Yeah.
out with the white label. I see so many people make the mistake of like going into production first before validating.
Right.
And I'm like, that is a dicey proposition. And really, I mean, small businesses should not be that costly to get up and running with all the supplies that we have. Now, I don't want to say that from like a dismissive point of view, but like you only require these gobs of money of funding when you're funding something that is like a very tech heavy project, because literally to get from one screen to the next takes a couple hundred people, and that's just the reality of it. But yeah, test out on like someone else's inventory. Don't take on so much inventory. Like, do it for the planet, do it for your pockets, like keep it a lean operation.
And yeah, I know we've been talking like business a lot, but I guess what has been your journey into just like tech and digital in general? Like, how did you even think this was like a world? I know like growing up, and you grew up in Jersey too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm like your neighbor to the north and like this side of the river in New York. But, you know, I think, you know, for a lot of us, this isn't really something that we think of, right? Like I did not grow up and think like, I'm going to be a digital operations strategist, right? Like, because everyone's like, what the hell is that? Like, it wasn't even a job 5 years ago, right?
Exactly.
So what kind of got you interested in all of that?
So yeah, I like you said, you know, I come from like a, you know, a working class, you know, Latino household that I just kind of was like, oh, I'm going to be a teacher, or I'm going to be a lawyer, like the jobs that we like see that are super visible, especially at the time when I was growing up. And yeah, I think in like 2010, the internet was like, you know, it wasn't like it is now, but I was like, man, this shit's cool. Like I noticed my habits starting to shift, like that I was like, oh, using Amazon or shopping in person a little bit less. And I would find like more unique things online. And I was always pretty like tech heavy. And it's funny because I have a cousin that lives in San Francisco, and he was an accountant, and he was like, yeah, tech is where it's at. And it was very different, you know, there than it was in New Jersey. But I went and stayed with them for like 3 weeks. And he was like, you know, look for like roles like digital account management or account support, like things like that when I came out of school. Because I had studied the summer of 2010 for the LSAT, and 2009. And I thought that I wanted to go to law school. And then I just was hearing like all these like nightmare stories about how people are like being a lawyer is like not like Law and Order SVU. Like it actually really sucks. And then when I was doing like consumer advocacy work and everything else, I was, you know, it was not glamorous. It was very expensive. So I just was kind of like, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of money to spend, you know, $300,000 for doing a lot of paperwork. And so I just, whatever the thing was, I think it was that I had the LSAT instructor. He was really cute and he was young. And he was like, I was in corporate law for a year. And he's like, and I would much rather be like here. He didn't say like I hated it, but he didn't need to. So I kind of was like, all right, so let me figure something else out, because something in my gut was just telling me like, look, this is a lot of money to spend, and you don't know if you'll love it. So yeah, my cousin was like, tech is where it's at. He's like 5-10 years older than me. So I just started looking for roles, and I had applied to, I think Amazon. Amazon had this other consumer goods company under them in Jersey City called Quidsi, I think it was at the time. I think they've just like merged. And then I also applied to booking.com, and they called me back and were like, yeah, come in for an interview. And yeah, the only reason that I did leave, I didn't leave because I was like, oh, I can't do this job, it sucks. My husband moved here from the Netherlands. Like we met at our job, and he moved here, and you know, we had never lived together, and he moved for the job. And I was like, well, I don't want to move in and work together. And because that just sounds, you know, and we were at a point that we were like, okay, he moved all the way over here. Are we going to put more time in between us? Because I was living in DC at the time. I'm like, are we going to put more time in between me finding a job and this and that? Or do I just want to like get a lump sum of money together as like my if shit doesn't work out fund, and then just figure it out. So it worked. It's not the way that I would recommend to everyone, but it did work out. It's, you know, it was all good. But it was a risky move to take. So yeah, and then I took like a, I don't know, like an 6 or 8 week course around like digital marketing and startups in the city when I came back over here from DC. And I was like, wow, this is so fucking cool. Like, I just was like, I felt like I had been, yeah, I don't know. I felt like so underexposed to like all the other stuff that was out there because you get tunnel vision in your job. And yeah, that was pretty much it. And this is when a lot of companies were really exploding on the scene, like Uber and Slack and, you know, all these kind of things that are just in our daily lives now. So, and I just fell in love with that. I was like, this is so up my alley. Like, I like to be up on shit early. So yeah, from there, that was that.